Welcome to First Wednesdays June. I'm Gretchen Heido, and Christy, our community manager and awesome coach, is going to be our speaker tonight on all things systems. I hope that you are prepared with your questions. She's really going to help us with how to get your business system set up, what you should be doing and what you should be thinking of. She's going to answer things that you may be having some frustration with, or just some questions that you might have about your own business and how to run it. Christy, I know you have a lot. I will take care of the waiting room so that you can just do what you have to do with presenting, and we'll go from there.
Got it. Well, thank you. And then to everybody hearing the recording, just everybody here too, you might want to take notes. So there's that. I'm going to cover 3 key client journey processes that require some tech for some of it, or maybe even a paper and pen, but let's just get into it. So the 3 key phases I always think about when it comes to having a client relationship software or any type of tech is your leads or potential clients, your enrollment process. So this is when you're actually getting payment and contracts, and your onboarding. Those are the 3 key things. There's many other things you can do like during the actual coaching package and offboarding, but that would be a much longer call. So we're going to focus on those 3. So the first part with your leads. Now I'm in the boat of, I like tracking my leads before they even get into my actual system where people are like paid and their clients. So after I talked to a few people too, some people love either having a paper and pen and just having like a list or even a whiteboard of leads. Some people love already just having them on like a Google sheet or already in their CRM so they can track what they're doing. And some things to think about when you're tracking your leads is, do you have an easy way for you to schedule a free call with them or a consult call with them? So you might need a scheduling platform like Acuity or Calendly. Later on while I talk, I'm going to bring up more all-in-one systems. We're going to go with key pieces right now. The other thing that I talk to people about in their systems is, do you have a follow-up process? Do you even want to follow up? That's a big question a lot of people go back and forth with all the time. So if you have a potential client, do you want to follow up with them every 3 days? Or do you only want to follow up with them once the next week after you guys talk? How do you want to nurture that lead, and how much do you want to put into a lead? It's a great question to have, because then if you're putting all of your energy into someone that's probably a no and they're just not telling you, you're missing an opportunity to someone who has like an easier yes going on. So keeping that in mind. Mine is mostly a 3-day follow-up and then a 7-day follow-up. And then if they don't respond to me, I'm out. They can come back to me if they want. The next part is enrollment. This is where a lot of people get a whole bunch of headaches with their tech, if you have tech. So what is your enrollment process? We talked about that. I think it was it April? Can't remember, somewhere around there. So we talked about the enrollment process. A lot of mindset goes around with your enrollment process too. But here, I want you to think about what packages you're going to offer them. If you have more than one package, are you going to create their package? Like, what are you doing with the packages? Have that already ready to go. How are you going to have them sign a contract or an agreement with you? Some people just do still, and that's perfectly fine, of sending something and they sign it and take a picture and send it back to you. I'm a big fan of actually getting that digitized. So there's things like HelloSign, which I know Gretchen uses. I've used DocHub in the past. There's DocuSign. There's a lot of things nowadays. You can even use Adobe, and I believe you can even use Google Drive now too. So there's a lot of different ways you can get the signature, but the point is making it easy for both of you. And that is the key for almost every part of this, is making this easy for your potential client / client when they become a client, and for you. Because if it's hard on either of you, neither of you get to experience the actual part, which is coaching, which is where you're trying to get to. The other part of your enrollment process is money, payments. I like to keep it as simple as possible for payments, because I want the payment to be the easy thing for them to do. They already made the decision to pay. That was the decision to pay. But for them to actually pay, I want them to be a little easy. So you can go the route of giving, like what I do on my invoicing, they can actually pick which way. They can pick PayPal, Stripe, whatever. There's a little bit more bookkeeping on my end if you do that. So that's something you have to think about. If you want it to be a little less bookkeeping on your part, you can actually get, if you don't have a bookkeeping software yet, Wave Apps is a really great free starter software for bookkeeping that has integrated invoicing. So you can invoice them and it tracks your bookkeeping at the same time, which is really great and really easy. It was wave.apps. that's the actual, yeah. And I really like that one. I started off with it when I was a VA a few years ago. I just started off there. Eventually I moved off to something more robust, but it's a great place to start. And it's a great place for a lot of people to stay, actually. The next part for that is like, what is your actual process for it? So I want you to think, when you're actually signing a client, do you want to send everything all at once, saying like, here are your next steps, do this, then this, then this, and then this? Perfectly fine doing that because you have it all together. Or do you want to like piecemeal it? So if you have an automated software, you can send the package, they can agree to it, then it automatically sends the invoice or the contract, whichever way you want to go. Once they do that, it sends the next part. So it's in pieces, but it's still automated. I am a fan of both ways, to be honest. Like the first way was just like, here's all your next steps, just do all of this little checklist and we're good to go. And also here's one by one. Sometimes I do it depending on my client. If I feel like they could handle all the steps in one email, I'll do it. If I'm just like, I'm not sure, let me just not overwhelm them, I'll actually do it piecemeal. So I actually have 2 different processes for that, just depending on the client, because I like feeling what people want and making it easy for them. The point of this is to make it easy for both of you. Now, the next big part about it, when you're actually onboarding them, this process is probably the part of it that looks different for most people. It does change depending on how much you want to be involved into like questionnaires and stuff in the beginning. What I would suggest is having like a templated welcome email with all of like, if they get access to something, if they get like a freebie for you, whatever it is, everything's together. How you guys can work together, what are your hours, how to schedule calls with you. A welcome email is a great thing to have if you have a whole bunch of steps when you're starting out. And so with this part of it, this is actually where I was going to stop for a second. For the welcome email, if you have a process where you need a questionnaire answered, is that something that you need in that moment? So I want everybody to, you can talk, you can chat, whatever you'd like. Do you have a questionnaire, like an intake questionnaire or a specialized intake questionnaire, depending on your actual type of coaching? And what do you do? I know Heba has something because she is all about questionnaires and I love that. So yeah. Heba, do you want to share yours?
Right. Yeah, I use Google.
Yeah.
And they basically, in the conversation before they get what they're going to get, I let them know.
Yes.
I let them know what they're going to expect. And then the first page is an explanation page of what is on each. So it says page 2, whatever, intro, page 3, contract, page 10, what, so they know what they're reading before they ever get into it. And usually part of before the questionnaire and the welcome email, it basically gives them the due dates of each one.
Okay.
I can either fill it in from the template, or it actually says by day 5, I need this. Before we meet, I need that. Payment needs to be made this way. So we talk on the phone and then I fill in the template. And when I send it out, just to make my life easy, I like to send everything out at the same time so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the process of that. I think if I was your client, I would be really happy with that process. But it's also really interesting because there's some coaches or some clients that don't want any part of that. They're like, I just want to book a call with you. I'm going to call with you. So it's something to really, really consider of like, what do you need to be that coach that you want to be? If you need those questionnaires, make sure you have them. And reflecting back what you said, have that expectation set. Expectations can be set at any point of this process. It can be when you're on a consult call with them. It could be when you're on a free call with them. It could be in your emails that like, hey, this is coming up. I just want you to make sure. Like for one of my services, I have a long pre-work questionnaire and I tell them probably 3 times before they even get the questionnaire that it's going to be rather long. And in the actual questionnaire in itself, I guide them through it so they know that they don't have to do it all at once because it can be kind of daunting to some people. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Because I'm going to probably jump into a whole bunch of tech tools probably in the next few minutes.
I'll just make a comment on the expectations. So the truth is that whenever you're building the expectations as well, it creates safety for your client. And it really is already the beginning of creating that sacred space. So when you can think of this with the questionnaires and the different things is laying some of the initial foundation of how you work together, it's going to create a precedence for what they can expect on an ongoing basis from you, the clear communication, your communication style, and the ways that you want things done. So what Christy's talking about here is very important when you're thinking about your own unique touch points. Michael, I think that your dog has a question.
Oh.
No, he has frozen.
I can go back. It's a little deep. Can you hear me?
Oh, now, say
Kind of.
something. Let's see.
Nope.
Put your dog back on the phone. Okay, go for it. Ask your question. No.
We're all just kind of like, oh.
It is
It's a bad day for tech. Yes.
Bad day for tech.
Okay, now
Go back inside. I just had a quick question about the forms. It's a little, just a slight detail. So were you specifically focusing, Christy, on the enrollment aspect of it? Because I have a form that I send out, like a weekly form.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to sort of differentiate between a weekly form and sort of an enrollment form, or the form that you send. And I'm not sure. So I don't have an enrollment questionnaire, and I wouldn't mind having one. So
Yeah. And enrollment when you're onboarding them, they're your client at that point. It could really be anything from a simple, what is your name, address, what's your birthday? So you can just have like basic information of them,
right.
to something really, really long, because you're actually going into a full, like very structured coaching program and you need certain information to continue. So it could be either which way. I actually do both. I have the client intake form and then a longer one that they know is coming after the client intake form. I like the client intake form because if I want to send them a present, I know when their birthday is. So it's just very helpful for the
like birthday and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Good idea. Okay.
And then for your weekly ones, is that like when you're doing the weekly coaching sessions, that's the forms you sent? Yeah, exactly. So that would be after, when they're already a client and they're already like really into your program. But yeah, it could really be, honestly, this is what's the beauty of having your own business. You can have it as simple or as complex as you want or need it to be. And if you find later that you were very complex and you want to be simple, you can switch back to vice versa. And it really just is the beauty of it. You can really go either way with it. There's really no right or wrong way to do, especially forms or questionnaires. Like you may not need information. You may need the coach that want everything intuitive. You might be the coach that needs all the information before you get on. It really just depends. Yes, Michael.
So is this what we were talking about, this enrollment process? Is that before or after they've already paid you?
So what I consider the enrollment process, which I know words are just weird, but what I consider the enrollment process is while they're choosing their package, paying their payment, and signing the contract, they're enrolling into your program. And then onboarding is where I normally send all the rest of the like intake forms and questionnaires. Now you can have other questionnaires when you're having a free call with them too. That could be tied to your free call when you're trying to figure out if they're going to be a fit for a call or a consult.
Right. It does. Yeah. Okay. So there's like a pre-payment enrollment process, and then there's a post-payment enrollment process and stuff.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've experienced that, and I do like it. So, okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah. And the reason why I go that way, and like I said, there's really no wrong way. The reason why I go that way is because especially when I was a few years ago, when I was a VA, I got super pumped that I signed a client, but I didn't actually sign them until they actually paid me. So I didn't actually consider anybody a client until they signed and paid. Before that, I'm just like, you're a potential. We're fine being a potential until you're actually a client. Because I don't know if they're really into it, or if they just said, like the 3 types of yeses. Like back then I didn't know all the 3 types of yeses. I was just like, you don't seem you're committed, so I'm not going to put you on my client list until you're committed. And then that's how normally I go with that. Granted, what's interesting is that I've had people sign and pay and then disappear on me. And I've been chasing them to see if they want their money back. They just disappear. That happens. I don't know why. they're still like on Facebook or whatever, they just wanted to donate to me. I actually have no idea why. Some people I refund, some people are partially refund because I did some work for them, but just know that may happen and it's very strange, but I don't know. The universe is just trying to give you money. I don't know why. So yeah, and during this process too, you have to think about your own specialty. Like Michael, you're a relationship coach, so you may have some relationship things going on. For me, I'm a productivity coach, so I have a lot of questionnaires about productivity and what's holding you back. So there's a lot of different things along the way from your leads to your onboarding. You have to see what flavor you want to put into it that makes sense for your own coaching practice. And from there, if you know what you're doing at this point, guess what? You can change 6 months down the line. That's perfectly fine. Because maybe you don't want to be that type of coach anymore. Maybe you want to do high performance coaching. Whatever you want to do, just keep going the way that your coaching practice seems to be naturally evolving to. And that's why I like different systems that can give you that kind of leeway to do that. But I actually want to pause here. What piece of tech do you have now that helps you in your process that's your favorite? Would love to know. See Michael thinking. Well, Michael, you. Both of you are thinking though. Is it your scheduling or is it your invoicing? Which one probably makes your life easier?
I don't have very many systems, but I have Calendly, and that's been a complete game changer for scheduling client generation calls and just networking calls. I find it's a lot more professional than the back and forth of like, tell me when you're free. And it just is so much more efficient. So that's been a great one. Yeah.
Michael, you use Calendly too. You like it still?
You talking to me, right?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Sorry. I should say Z and E.
There you go. I love it. I love it. And with the new workflows, I pay the $15 a month, and it has the workflows in there, and it's awesome. It handles like my follow-up email, and the scheduling's great, and the Google integration. It's top notch, I think. So I like it.
Yeah. And it's nice when things are simple. Like Marissa said, it takes away the whole back and forth. And Gretchen uses Acuity. I used Acuity for years. But it really does cut off that back and forth, especially if you're a coach that's either international or like national. You can't just say, oh, are you available 8 a.m. on Tuesday? 8 a.m. for what time? Like PT, ET, like what is it? Instead, you can just give them your link, they can figure it out, and you're good to go. And having those, like, especially with the workflows, having the follow-up going on is helpful too. I have that in my system. I use Dubsado to remind me to follow up. Not only will it send an email if I'm okay with the follow-up, but if I don't want to follow up, I can actually cancel it, which is kind of nice, because sometimes you just don't want to follow up with someone, especially if you had a call and you're like, we're not a good fit. Send them a not good fit email. You're not going to want to follow up with them. Yes, Suzanne.
Hey there. I'm
Hi.
so sorry I was late, and
No worries.
I'm excited about this conversation. I've been using Zoho, and I love it. And I'm still learning it, and I have a Zoho person that I'm working with to help me integrate. We haven't gotten to the calendar part, but we just started talking about workflows, and I'm like super jazzed, but I'm learning. So I mean, I know like the basics, and I'm wondering if there are any samples, or if anyone on the call has like a screenshot of theirs, or different ones for different, like for cultivation, for onboarding, and for ongoing. I'm just in a learning process. So if you were going to talk about this later or whatever, I'm sorry to mess up any order. Just wanted to put that out there.
No, this is a very organic call, so it's a great question. I do have different samples of workflows. I build workflows for people all the time. So I can send you one if you'd like, so you can see what it is. But when I'm building a workflow with someone, say I get on a call with them and we're having a little strategy call, I actually have them walk me through their process if their system didn't exist. That's what I would do first. So what is your process if your system didn't exist at all? And you just need to write down, like, I'm going to call this person, then I'm going to follow up on this date, like, what's your process? And then see if your system can handle that, either automated or to create reminders for you. And then whatever it can't, you might have to find another system or find another way. Maybe you just need Post-its or something. That's fine too. So that would be my very first thing. Like, what is your natural process? Because if you're trying to rebuild a process that doesn't work for you, you're not going to follow it and it won't feel right. So that's why I like people trying things out before they even get a CRM or any type of system. Like, go with it organically first, see what feels right, and then see how you can automate it instead of automated something you never have done before, because that's probably counterproductive for you and your client, because you might seem frazzled of what's going on in your situation. You're like, I don't even know my next step because I've never done this before. But if you already have a process, it makes it so much easier to just do it the other way. Does that help?
I guess, that helps. And I feel like with my ADHD, like my process is kind of like not necessarily fluid and helpful for my client.
Yeah.
And so part of what I'm working on is to, have a process that is intuitive for me, but that also is really going to support my client through the process and give her, like the amount of information she needs and the amount of, instead of like asking for everything, or, like that's another reason why I love samples, because I want to see some, ways to titrate and think about creating a really thoughtful, warm, and professional workflows.
Okay. So yeah, I can definitely give you that, and I'll probably post it in the group too. I have something, I have a few things, I have a lot of things. But with that too, what you said there about something sparked in my head. Oh, feedback. I actually have no problem asking people for feedback. So if you're comfortable with it, and you can do it anonymously if you'd like for a Google form, but ask your clients, your current clients or your past clients, how they feel about your current onboarding process. You don't necessarily have to use the word onboarding if they don't know what it is. If you're working with a business to customer and they're not another business, they might not know what that means. But just ask them, what did you feel about this? Was this too much or too little, not enough? And do a little survey and see, because you do sometimes need to bend to your client to make sense for them, or else they're just going to get flustered and overwhelmed. That totally makes sense. So if you can do that, that would be a great idea. Just see also your specific clientele, because I can give you all the workflows, and I understand the need for examples. Whenever I learned like math or anything, I needed examples. I love examples for everything, just to see like, how is it supposed to be? And then I'll make it my own. It's like making a recipe. I see like 10 recipes and I make my own anyway. But to see how your specific clients that you've already signed before, what they think on it, and then you can actually make it better for either the next time they re-up with you or when you have a new client. So a little thought.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy.
Does anybody have any other questions? Maybe even on your specific process. I can do little popcorns on that. Oh, someone popped. No. Yes, Michael. Z.
When
sorry.
you do follow-ups, like the 3 and 7 day, can you give like an overview of what you say to them? Because I know there's different tactics of like, hey, I saw this article or this video reminded me of you. So what's your tactic, if you don't mind?
So in my first follow-up, I tend to give them something. In my second follow-up, I'm just trying to see if they even got my email, which sometimes I know they have my email because my CRM would tell me that it's been read. So, but I'm just like, hey, curious. And I know not a lot of people do the, hey, curious, did you get my email? But it actually worked for me. I don't know how many times this year to do that process, because they're like, oh, I did see it, but I forgot. Because generally the people I work with, productivity coach, they're going to forget about things. They're going to get away from things because that's what they need my help with. So it makes sense for my clients. So that's something you can think about yours too. If your clients are on the ball with everything, that might not be the best tactic for you. You may either want to be like, here's another gift, or asking them when you want to get on a call again, or giving something direct for them to do, because they will respond to action if they're going to respond to anything. If they don't respond to that's when I would probably like move on. When you're doing very like service-based stuff, like I do sometimes, I don't know if you ever heard of the magic email. I've done that before. I've signed people after those emails before. It's basically, I didn't hear back from you, so I'm going to close your account or whatever. It's kind of almost like a harsher tactic. That works, I would say, for like service, but it like service-based, like done for you things. But I don't think it fits too well in coaching unless that's part of your coaching style. It's like, okay, we're not going to talk, then we're not going to talk. And then that gets your people to start talking. So it really depends on your coaching practice and style.
Well, and with that, that's called taking it off the table.
Yeah.
And so what you would say is, hey, Gretchen, I just was following up on our last call. I know that I sent you over that article, haven't heard from you. Here's what I'd like to do. Why don't we take off the coaching off the table for now so that your mind can relax? And when your enthusiasm for coaching or need for coaching is 1% greater than your trepidation, fear, whatever you might call it, that's how you're going to know that it's time to contact me again. Really wishing you well. Good luck with this next thing, and that's how you would take it off the table for that magic email, because people typically are like, wait, I didn't say to take it off the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that too, you can automate something like that if you'd like, but those I like having a more personal touch with, just so you can make sure that it has a little flavor of what you actually spoke about. So for those, and this I'm going to jump into templates now. That's a great leeway to that. I love canned email templates. They are the best because my brain doesn't have to recreate something. Decision fatigue is something I try to avoid as much as I can. So having those templates is very helpful. So with that taking off the table email, you can have a template written out with the majority of it, and then little parts to give the flavor of like who that person is, what you guys talked about, what you sent them. And then before you send it, you just edit it and then send it to them. But you don't have to rewrite that email or try to search for the last person you sent it to so you can copy and put it in and then accidentally write the wrong name, because that does happen. So having it more of a template with no name on it is very, very helpful for some of those things. And having your canned emails in general is very helpful to make sure that you're on track of what you said you wanted to do in your business. It actually helps you keep your boundaries. So if your boundary was, I'm not going to chase people, if that's what your brain sees, then you know that after this email, I'm definitely not, until they come back to me, I won't do it. So I can go focus on someone else. It kind of not only takes it off the table for them, takes it off the table for you so you can go focus on someone else. And having a lot of tech, honestly, I know Gretchen knows this, a lot of tech helps you with your boundaries. It will enforce them for you when you're not even there, especially schedulers. If you've already used a scheduler, you know that they can't randomly schedule on your day off because you already blocked it off. Now you can actually go in there and manually override things, but at least for the most part, your tech will hold your boundaries for you. Now the two main scheduling platforms are Acuity and Calendly, of what I've noticed that people like because it's easy and they're easy to go. I don't know what's up with Calendly's new branding. I don't know if you like it, but I don't like it. But that's just like another story. It's very bright blue and I don't know why. They're very soft and now they're very, very bright blue. But the difference between Acuity and Calendly is how much you get for the free version. But regardless, I always tell people, get the paid version. The paid version will give you the follow-ups, give you the reminders. So you don't have to remind people when their appointment is. Because you may be too busy to just be like, oh, I need to tell Marissa tomorrow that her appointment's tomorrow. The system does it for you. You don't have to deal with that, which is very helpful. Now, let's go back to leads really quick, because I know I kind of glossed over that very quickly, but I know that's something that people struggle with. How do you guys track your leads now? Do you use a spreadsheet? Do you use a pen and paper? Do you use a whiteboard? What's your favorite method right now? Remember, nothing's wrong. I'm just curious. Looks like Marissa was going to say something, but I wasn't sure. Were you just worried?
Michael had his hand up.
Oh, there you go. It just popped up for me. Yes?
There you go. I have a spreadsheet that I use, and at this point I'm kind of a writer, so I love taking kind of extensive notes on conversations that I have had. It's just kind of a business habit that I've done from running businesses. It's not the most efficient, and I wouldn't mind streamlining it and taking it to the next level tech-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Be really truthful. It works, but like you said, there's no right or wrong. I kind of go, it's like kind of I don't know what I don't know a little bit. Like and in fact, you and I talked a little bit one time about mm-hmm. sort of some of my desires to kind of, take it a little more digital wise. And it kind of also reflects, going back to the canned email thing, is also kind of pushing it a little bit against my grain, but I think it's really good. actually, because I think I would like more boundaries, but I'm kind of I'll have a template for a letter and I'll cut and paste it into whoever I'm sending it to, but then I always go in and, make it personal and whatever. And that's not bad, but I do often wonder if it, in this particular arena, might be better to kind of have a little more, canned / boundary, a paradigm that's a little more anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So not everything can be a canned email, but a lot of things could be if you want them to be. And also, if a canned email pops up and you're like, okay, I'm going to use this one, but something's telling you like, no, it needs to be fully customized for this specific client, throw that away.
Right.
Write what you want to write. The point of it mostly is, one, to save you time, especially if you have something connected to a scheduler that like has reminders and stuff, or to avoid the dreaded like blank email. You're like, where do I even start? What am I going to say to them? It gives you something to start with. So either it can be a full canned email template, or it can be just a starter, which I believe we called in 0 to 6 them letter starters. It's just to get you started. Not everything will make sense for the client that you're sending it to, especially for follow-ups. Follow-ups is something that I mainly have as reminders to myself with a template attached if I want to use a template, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to use a template. And that's something, yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said canned light.
Yes, exactly. and it's, having them, and for everything I've just talked about, one, as I said, there's no wrong way to do it. 2, you will be always growing and developing your process as you're going, especially as you're either, maybe you want to scale and get bigger. So your process needs to change to be able to handle that. Or maybe you want to actually go down because you want to have more vacation time. So that month or 2 when you're on vacation, your process needs to also change too. You may need to like turn off all your schedulers and everything so people don't bother you. Yes, Stan.
So this is awesome. And in a recent conversation with Gretchen, we're talking about helping me to simplify so that I don't put like so much stuff in my emails.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine that the template actually is more like fill in the blank, like not literally, but like you get 2 things to talk about, Suzanne. And so like really clear about what I'm filling in so that it helps me with that structure. I can see that being really useful. Give that some thought.
Yeah. And you can have them like that too. It could be a reminder for you saying, ask them this or ask them this, and then you can't really do anything else, like one or the other. Again, with the decision fatigue, trying to get away from that. But also kind of avoiding a rabbit hole too, because you can probably send somebody a very long email with a whole bunch of information, but do they need that email?
Right.
That's also the question.
That's my learning right now.
Yeah. And simplicity is like the best thing you can do for both of you. Again, whenever I talk about systems, I want it to make sense for you and your audience. And if it's too complex and your audience doesn't do well with complex, or your potential clients, it's not going to work for either of you. That's just the thing of it. Going back to like me and productivity coaching, I can get very, very like, I want you to fill out every single thing, but I know you're not going to, because you came to me for productivity coaching. You probably don't have the time to do it. So I have to give it in pieces instead. So it's kind of like keeping that in mind too. And also how much I can handle. Do I want to read a very long thing before a call? Not really. So I pare down my like before call questionnaire. So only like 3 questions. Like I only need to know 3 things. I just need to know where, if you're moving, if you're not moving, what you want to work on, and so we can get on the call. So really you just go with it. There are a whole bunch of clients I just decided not to have weekly forms with, just because I didn't want to read the forms that month. that was just a plain truth of it. I'm like, I'm tired of the forms. And then I restarted it again because I'm like, I kind of need them. And it's fine. Just going back either way of what works for you and what works for them. And I know I said that so many times now, but that's the truth of it. I've come across so many other people who do systems and processes that want to literally force them into a box, but it's not going to work. I always say, if your system doesn't work for you, it's not going to work. That's just plain it. So I'm very, very fluid of like what I suggest to people to do. If it was up to me, I would suggest everybody to be on Dubsado. That's just the thing. But I know it doesn't work for everybody. I know there's limitations to so many tech. So that's actually a leeway to all-in-one tech. There is Dubsado, which I know is spelled weird. There's Honeybook, There's 17 hats. I believe Emily's not on the call, but she uses Practice Better. There's so many all-in-one systems, but sometimes even all-in-one systems aren't all-in-one for you. For example, Dubsado has a limitation of their scheduling system right now. They're going to change it in the next year or so, but like right now it's not helpful. If you do weekly appointments, you cannot do that with Dubsado. You can, it would just take you like an hour to do it versus like very quickly on Calendly or Acuity. They already have that feature. So it's keeping an eye on like also like what processes do you need easier that is like a deal breaker for you. And if it's something that the CRM or the scheduler or whatever doesn't have, you kind of do need to find another one. Use the one that you have currently, but see which one you can actually go into that you can grow with. That's why for the longest time I used Acuity and Dubsado because I use recurring appointments. Now I don't really go based off of recurring appointments. I go based off of a package of appointments. So it makes more sense. So keeping that in mind, like what limitations the tools that you want to have right now, are they growing into something or are they going to stay that way? Most of the time the tech will tell you if they have like oncoming things or whatever. They have like a roadmap or something if you look into those release notes and things. Not everybody does. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I actually want to talk about the difference between a CRM, which is a client relationship management, and a project management tool. People think they're the same. They can sort of be the same, but they're actually two different things. So I'm going to just give you two examples so I don't like give you a whole bunch of tech and confuse everybody. So Dubsado is an all-in-one CRM that has some project management in there, but it's not a project management tool. Trello is more based off of a project management tool, but you could kind of use it as a CRM. The main difference is that Dubsado can take your payments and your contracts and actually hold your client information. Dubsado will only hold notes. It's not going to process contracts or payments. You can add the invoices on there, but it's not going to go and get money from anybody. It's just, you just drop things in there. I like having both because I can actually see the process of like what I'm doing with someone, of like, especially like a potential client, of like, what do I need to do with them, and have my little check off list of like, I need to do this and then this. Oh, did I send them something? If they emailed me, I will put a note and I can see a timestamp. So I'm not always wondering what I did with a client or a potential client. I already know because I put a note in there, and that's what works for me. But for the longest time, I just used, I'll just show you. This is one of my favorite things. This is not tech. This is not system. It's a Rocket notebook. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. It's basically a wet erase notebook. So I will always have this, and whenever I'm done with it, I just wipe it off. You can really have everything in here and upload it to anywhere you want if you'd like that, because it is kind of tech. You can upload it and it digitizes it for you. And with that, it's like you can really have it any way you'd like, but the point is to try to get to the point that will help you the fastest so you can grow and actually coach. Because if you're drowned in tech the whole time, the tech's not helping you, and you figuring out the tech isn't helping you. Just go back to pen and paper, sign a few clients, come back to the tech. That's what I have told people before. There's someone that I've had a discussion with where they wanted everything set up before they had a client. I'm like, but you don't even know if you can sign a client. So why don't we sign a client and then set everything up? Because it's chicken before the egg. Like, it's not going to work for you. It seems intuitive, but it's actually counterintuitive to try to set all of your systems up before you even have, I would say, a more or less stable practice. Start with what you need. So start with Acuity or start with Calendly, and then start with like an invoicing software. And once you have something running pretty good, then you could bring in a full CRM and then it'll run it for you. And then you don't have to have like 10 different tech going on. Unless you like that, that's fine. I did that for years. It was fun. Because trying to get all the information over the place doesn't really help sometimes, but some people like signing into different things. You have a question? Michael E?
Well,
yeah.
You shouldn't have said that, because now I do have a question. So, and I actually asked you this before, and I just sort of for the time being stuck with my Excel in terms of client lists and so forth, but I still am searching or looking for a good client database management that isn't CRM necessarily based. You know, like I used to use FileMaker in my old job. That's a Mac-based database software system. It's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that on my current operating system, but I'm curious if there's anyone that you know, that you like. And that, again, where it would be, because my old business, I, had all these different, I had like, 300, in this case, 300 radio stations, 85, clients, et cetera. And, I took notes, made, whatever, dates and notes and what have you, and conversation, recall, bullet points, et cetera. And is there, what would you suggest? Or
So if you like things like Excel, I would either suggest Google Sheets, or if you want to learn some new tech, I really like Airtable. It's really Airtable. I'll write it in the chat too. It's basically Excel and Google Sheets on steroids. It has a lot more features. You can have a lot more sheets going on. They're all linked together. You can actually change the view from like a sheet, like an actual sheet view, to more of like a board view. So it has a lot of different capabilities that,
in other words, you can like you can view it in different platforms or angles or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And you can have different things like a checkoff list to tracking emails. Currently, I'm using mine to track different giveaways that I'm in, which is really helpful because it's just basically a database of information that doesn't make sense to go into my CRM. So yeah, that would probably be a pretty good one for you. Google Sheets is just a very like easy shot from Excel. It's just synced, so you can have it everywhere in case something happens to your laptop.
Okay.
But Airtable has a lot more capabilities to do a whole bunch of different things for you.
Great, thank you.
I'll check into that. And then I could probably drop or send you a little Loom about it, because I can show you what I do with mine.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I know we're like 15 minutes away, but there's too much tech.
I have one. So I like building up my email subscriber list because I write a lot, and I put like a CTA at the bottom with a link to go to. So I use Hubspot. And in Hubspot, you can do like a landing page builder that has an integrated form thing. So it's like they click the link, they go to the form, they sign up for my thing, it creates the contact, it sends them a welcome email, and now they're in my subscriber list. And I was wondering, what is your process, Christy, for that sort of a sign up process?
Okay, so for example, I'll give you my process. I was in a giveaway last month and I had 400 new leads come in. A lot going on. So the first thing I did, one, is make sure they were all on my Airtable with all my leads. But I also see if you're going to send them something, have they responded to you? Have they signed up for anything else? I had a whole bunch of people sign up not only for the freebie, but also for resource library that I had in there. So they're signing up for more things. Do they seem more interested? Then I kind of marked them different places of like, they just seem like they're interested in the giveaway because people just like free things, to, oh, they kept looking for more of my products, or they found me on Instagram or whatever. And then I kind of put them more warmer because they seemed interested in me. From there, I would segment them off to potential clients and then start nurturing them differently than I would for the ones that just kind of signed up and didn't really do anything else with me. It takes a little bit of work, especially after a big influx of people. But if you have a shorter flux of people going on, maybe you don't do like big giveaways like that every like month that I'm doing right now. I don't know why I'm doing this. But you could be able to track it more. Like when I'm doing it on a normal month, I do that maybe like twice a month. I would go in and see like, where are they? What are they doing? What have they clicked on? So it really depends. I think HubSpot has some capabilities, but not everything that like the one I'm currently using has. So it really depends on what I forgot which capabilities HubSpot has right now. I do know, I just forgot. But from there, I would actually want to know, what is your question from? Are you trying to get them from a lead to getting them on a call? Like, where are you trying to get them to?
Well, no, the immediate goal was to get them as a subscriber. And of course, in my emails, there's like a bunch of links and CTAs that they can book a session, they can read more about, they can look at my meetup groups. I was wondering more so like, what's your tech stack for that sign up process?
For email marketing? So not to confuse everybody, I know there's going to be a lot more tech going on. I use right now MailerLite, and I also use Podia. So my my Podia is basically connected to my MailerLite. When they sign up for a freebie or class or they pay for something, they are copied into my MailerLite. However, I am moving to a funnel system, and that's FG funnels. That's going to hold everything. It's going to hold the courses, the landing pages, sales pages, the emails. I can actually schedule calls through there too. So that could be an all-in-one CRM. But right now, and what I've been doing at least for the past 3 or 4 years, has been whatever landing page software, which really could be like on your Squarespace site. I did it on my WordPress, embed a form and get them as a subscriber and then nurture them from there. Now, from the nurturing, I have a welcome sequence, and then I have a longer nurturing sequence. Those are, I suggest at least a welcome sequence. Normally those are 3 to 5 emails, getting them to actually do an action. Scheduling a call or ending up on another list. It really depends on what you like. So my tech stack for that right now is kind of all over the place, but in general, it was MailerLite and Podia, what I had. I like Podia. It kind of holds all my free stuff in there, my courses.
And let's just blazing over, and you have no idea what is being talked about on this call because you are not a tech person. It's okay. That's how it is for a lot of coaches. I am not a tech person. I could never lead this call. I could make a bunch of ish up and you probably wouldn't know, but you'd know if you asked me a question. I just make up more things and keep giving all the floor time to Christy to answer it. Tech is not my thing. It's okay because there are people who can help you. So when we're all starting our businesses and we're trying to figure out what do I need, it can feel overwhelming. Christy, for you, what's your recommendation that if there are only 2 things that, other than your website, that a coach should start with when it comes to tech, what do you recommend?
If I had to choose only 2.
You can only choose. Christy doesn't want to only choose 2.
I want to choose 3, but I'll choose 2. It's fine. A scheduling software and an invoicing software. Those are my 2.
What's your third?
My third would be contracts, but that one you can kind of get away with for some free things for a while.
Okay, and my 2 would be your scheduling software. I have to have scheduling software and my client relation management system for how I'm going to keep track of all of my clients. So it's interesting. So for you, one of the things to realize is where are you stronger and where are you weaker? Because what Christy might choose might be something that what I would choose, and might be something that would be different than what would help someone else on the call. So this by no means means that you have to run out and have all of these different things. This is really something that where are the holes for you? People have all sorts of ways that they keep track of things. And that's why Christy was asking so many of these different questions. While I use much of the tech that she's talking about, some of it I don't use, and some of it I probably could use more of, and it all is fine, whatever you choose. So there's a question in here, what CRM do I use? I use something called Daylight for Mac. I don't think it's the best one. I don't think it's what I would choose today. I think I would have had Christy set me up on Dubsado if I would have known Christy when I got started, but I didn't know Christy when I got started. I would have used Zoho before that if that would have existed when I started coaching, but it didn't. So, there's lots of choices. It's really just a matter of picking the one that doesn't overwhelm you, picking the one that you feel like you can manage, and picking the one that might be easiest for you yourself to be onboarded on. That's just one of the other things I wanted to add.
Yeah. And with all tech in general, if you're curious about something, they probably have a trial. You can even see if you like it. Or there's so many videos. Don't go down a rabbit hole, but like pick one tech that you're like, I think I really need this. And then look into it. See if it actually meshes with you. If it doesn't, move on. Go find something else, or go ask somebody else. Hey, what do you use in your business? So you can see what is out there. There's so many things that I don't even know is out there because there's so many of them. There's no way for me to know every CRM under the sun. There's too many of them. And there's so many of them that wouldn't work at all for coaches in my experience, or would work very little for coaches. I knew Salesforce because it was something that I used in a telemarketer place I used to work at. It was not a fun experience. But I know that, and it made sense for that. But for a coach, for me, that just works by themselves and just has 15 clients a month or a year, whatever, Salesforce wouldn't make sense to them. So there's so much tech that you can just literally I'm not even looking at that. there's no reason to look at that. But in general, like, and that's, I think I even talked to Marissa, like, what is important to your business right now? And what are a few key features you want to grow into in the next 6 months? Then try to find something that way. You don't actually need anything, because you will find out there's a lot of people who make a lot of money and they don't use anything, and that's completely valid and fine. But if you do want something because you don't want to spend more time out of doing all your admin stuff, then find something that does work for that. Does anybody have any questions? I think we're just gonna answer questions at this point because I think I hit all my points.
I don't have any questions, but I'm that one person that I believe Gretchen was referring to. I just basically use the free Calendly, and I have no other systems other than a pencil, and I'm perfectly happy. So just saying, I'm not offering it to anybody else. I'm just saying some people can, so, and that's okay. I love writing all this stuff. It's really interesting, but it's a little scary too at the same time. So some people, to learn all this is a lot of information.
Yeah, it is. Because it's a lot of tech in general, or a lot of different choices you have to make.
Yeah. And I just wanted to offer it just as another option, because sometimes, the learning has a learning curve, and I want to use the time talking to people on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm a doodler. I doodle, like creative things come up. So pencil's a great thing.
That's actually why I like my Rocketbook, because I could just wipe it off. I would show you my writing, but it's horrible. Michael?
No, I was just going to ask Heba if so it sounds like she's pretty basic. I was curious about how she actually does invoice clients if she doesn't really have or does she have a system? Do you have a system for that, Heba?
I used to have, because I had a small business prior, and I used to have a credit card processing company, and I mean that somebody did that for me for years, and so I used that, and it used to I would attach the link with the invoice to the client, and they would just click on the link and pay directly. The invoice would be there. I've since discontinued it to just even simplify the world even more from tax purposes. My clients know I hate paperwork. I'm not the most administrative human being, so I send out quarterly invoices, not monthly. And I ask the client, how do you want to pay? Do you want to pay monthly? Do you want to pay the dates? And I put that in the invoice. So the invoice shows the quarterly, the number of sessions, the dates they're going to be on and then it has underneath it payment dates if it's going to be broken up, or it actually says pay this amount. And I just have a Venmo or Zelle, and they pay it, and I hold them to be creative, resourceful, and whole. If they can't be adults and pay for it, they know that they really won't be on a coaching call with me until that invoice is paid. It has never, I've never had a problem. I've never chased a single human being down. They're probably not my client anyways. If I have to chase somebody, they're not my client. It's a little simple, but I mean, I've simplified it to the point of that's it. Once a quarter.
Gretchen, were you going to say something?
No, I was seeing if you had any closing thoughts.
Yeah, well, my closing thoughts would be that one, if you want the tech, go for the tech. If you don't want the tech, don't go for the tech. That's basically it. And I know some people they really, really want to learn a lot about tech, but if you're not a tech savvy person, don't let that overwhelm you. You don't really need it until you want it, basically. And if you just think you want it because you're comparing yourself to another coach that has this beautiful system, again, I think we're talking about comparison next month, actually. Be very wary on comparing yourself to anybody, because every business and even if I'm a productivity coach and they're a productivity coach, we're going to run differently no matter what, because we're different people. Yes, Aiden. And hi.
Hello. Hi. I'm sorry to have missed part of this, but I was looking up the FG funnels that you mentioned moving to, and it looks like they cover a lot of the services you were mentioning.
Yep.
I'm not tech savvy, but I do learn fairly quickly if I put my mind into something. So I wonder, at this price, which seems pretty low, would this be a good place to start? I guess that's my question. I see they have like an introductory price. Would it be a good place to start for somebody?
Now, interesting enough, I know we only have a few minutes. They actually is the company business that certified me in my marketing. So I know a lot about them. I'm barely learning their funnel system because it's relatively new. So I have basically the whole system. I would say if you're not going to have a whole bunch of sales pages or a whole bunch of marketing going on, you probably don't need that. That's mainly for like more heavy marketing. So right now, currently I'm building like a webinar funnel, which is going to have a video to an apply link to, and then just all automated. What they don't have is contracts though. So that's something to keep in mind. But they do take payments, they do have funnels, they do marketing, you can integrate your emails, like everything's in there. So my short answer is, if you want to learn it, go for it. They actually have what is called an FG University, which I believe everybody who buys it gets their entire course of how to even use it, which I have not seen really many companies do. So it's very helpful to just like learn the basics and go for it. And they always have like office hours and stuff. The vibe there is very nice. I love it. But in general, if you're not going to do a lot of heavy marketing, you probably don't need it. At least marketing with sales pages and stuff. If you're doing a lot of organic, very organic marketing, then you probably wouldn't need it. But if you want to go that way, if you're going to do courses, if you're going to do all of that, it's probably a good all-in-one for you. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, everyone. Christy, we want to thank you. Do you have anything that you want them to commit to doing or trying?
Good question. I would like you to at least review or analyze your current processes. See what's working for you, see what's not working for you, see where you can simplify it. Because sometimes it could be that you have all of this processes that you learned from 10 other people and they actually don't work with you. So I would say, we'll post it in the group, just say if you want to say what your processes are, you can. If you can say like, I reviewed it, I'm kicking blah off the curb, like I'm not following up every single day, like that's what I'm kicking to the curb. Or I've decided I need to simplify by having invoices automated or whatever. Just commit to one thing that will help streamline at least one part of your process.
Yeah, and a good way to be able to do that is to see where you're falling in the hole, either with your time and overthinking it or missing your money. Both things are falling in a hole. So if you notice that, or with your client creation, that it is not as streamlined as it could be, those are all clues to the thing that you could be doing. Okay, everyone, great first Wednesday. Christy, I feel so honored that you spoke to our group and taught them all of these wonderful things and really gave them a new lens to look at it with. I appreciate that. And we'll see everyone next month for another first Wednesday.
Bye, thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. See you soon.